All right. Hello, Bill.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you,
How's it
my friend?
going? Not bad. Hanging in
Welcome.
there.
Yeah. Welcome to special live coverage. Oh, here we go. There he is. Okay. All right. Special live coverage of Brendan Melkin eating. I'm gonna assume nails and screws. Probably.
Yeah, no, they were potato chips. They were delicious. I wasn't expecting you to get to me that fast. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Good, good. We got special debate coverage here tonight. The second debate for the state Senate seat, first Worcester district, between Mayor Joe Petty and Robyn Kennedy. This is the second debate. Last night, cowards were afraid to put it on video. They only held it on the radio, which is for old people, but it was internet radio, which is for nobody. So,
yeah, except me, and anyone else who had listened to it. Honestly, did everyone else have the same problem I did, where it was like skipping 10
Yes.
seconds every minute?
Yeah. It wasn't. I didn't listen to for very long because I couldn't listen.
Yeah.
I was like, Bill will tell me tomorrow.
yeah, I suffered through it. Hold on, I'm just can't do two things at once here. I'm just telling all my social media pages to come into the stream.
Yeah, everybody
And,
share with all your friends that we're doing this. Get everybody on the stream right now.
Twitch.tv is the only chance this debate has for being entertaining. So get as many people in as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of allegations that Joe Petty has cut the power in certain parts of the city so that people won't see this debate. He 100% did not promote it at all last night, or I didn't see today, but
no. It's Joe Petty's campaign is only hampered by him speaking. it's in his best interest to not. But I don't know if you guys saw, he's doing a freestyle with Jordan Lucas on Sunday. Get up and vote.
The Joe Petty cipher. Very excited.
Good Lord.
I'm Joe Petty, not Bill Eddy, and I am running for Senate so that we can have a fun time. I don't know.
Confetti.
Yeah. Okay, just gotta do Instagram now. But I have some notes about the debate last night.
What were like overarching, like, Brendan, what was your biggest takeaway from what you did here?
I am now questioning whether or not Joe understands how anything works. I mean, it's like, this is the thing. I mean, like, the nicest guy in the world. I have nothing bad to say about Joe Petty aside from, man, like, do you actually know how any of this works? Like, I mean, Robyn came in last night with some pretty coherent policy thoughts and what have you. I mean, Joe, the one that really stood out to me was when they were talking about signing on to Mayor Wu's, pilot program for limiting natural gas in new construction. Mm-hmm. And Joe's thoughts on that were, well, we put it in front of the Economic Development Committee. It's like, no, like, nobody gives a shit what the Economic Development Committee or any form of economic development cares about the planet ending. Like, just for a city that barely has new construction starts, I mean, that might impact what, like 12 single family homes over the next year. It's nothing. And but it really struck me like he doesn't understand the issue that your kids, which he has, are going to die suffering on a planet that no longer is habitable for humans. And we're just trying to give him a little extra time, dude.
And he's like, National Grid, I don't know how they feel about it. So, And he was like, he said some line about like, well, from what I read in the paper, I don't think we even really have a choice about which communities are going to be the pilots. And it's like, he didn't even really understand it.
Good. And he read an article.
Yeah, right. I read an article. And Robyn did, and was very much like, why wouldn't we try this? And Joe's like way of basically saying that he didn't understand it was like, we're gonna have to study it and take a look at it. And I love when Robyn was like, dude, it's a pilot.
Yeah,
that's how you study it. Like, we should study it by being involved. And then Joe Petty was like, well, we did a solar panel farm, so we're really good on the environment.
But related to that too, I mean, the one that when I started paying attention, because I came in a little bit late, was when they were talking about encampments for unhoused people.
Yeah.
And Joe's response to like one, he kind of took offense, and then he said that we have a housing first policy. Like, I'm not entirely sure from listening to his response to that question if he understands that having a policy isn't the same as doing shit, right? Like, you can put all the words you want on paper, but like, how many unhoused people are now in houses? And if the answer is still 0, then your housing first policy is just a piece of paper.
Yeah, and that's something I've honestly been meaning to look into, because you'll hear City Hall people say all the time that we have a housing first policy, and that's something I remember them talking about in like 2018. But I really don't think that there's infrastructure for like any sort of rapid rehousing program in actuality. They just said that they were going to work on it and then didn't update it at all. And yeah, they just talk about the quality of life team. I was actually very surprised, and I texted a couple people who were also surprised that Gary Rosen even brought that up. I mean, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but like, no one else wrote about that Providence Street camp demolition, which I was kind of disheartened by. And Gary Rosen's like, many people are saying that we should sanction outdoor encampments, and it's like, just one guy that I quoted in my story said that. That's not really like something that a lot of people are talking about, but I'm glad that Gary Rosen somehow believes that people are, because that's great. I personally think that that's a lot smarter than what we're currently doing.
What pseudonym do you think he's paying for his subscription under?
Yeah, right. I
don't want to dox all your readers, but I mean, we should get that list together and start trying to ID which one is Gary.
I could probably do that, and I could probably very easily convince him, like with some sort of like fake email, that he has to pay actually to read the articles, even though I haven't paywalled a single article. I could be like, Gary.
Let me ask the question differently. Which one of your subscribers mails you a $5 bill in an envelope every month?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On senior center stationery.
Yeah, Gary Rosen and my grandma.
Yeah. Well, I do. I want to. I like Brendan was saying before. The mayor, a nice man, a very nice man. But that's not a compelling reason for me to vote for him for this higher seat. It's also when you take in the into account that literally it would be handing us Donna Calorio, and I just like, to me that's kind of enough, unless there's some marked difference between he and Robyn Kennedy. And as far as I can tell, it's not that he's far out ahead of her in progressive policies.
No, he's actually, as he showed clearly with the fossil fuel pilot thing.
Yeah,
he's more to the center on almost everything.
Yeah, in his place, I think he's most politically like savvy as kind of a weak mayor in a lot of ways.
The weak mayor is great for him. That was a really funny exchange towards the end of the forum. Robyn was like, Joe, I think you're a great mayor, and I hope you continue to be the mayor for a long time. That was funny.
It really was well delivered, too, because she also threw in there, like, I campaigned for you. I've worked for you. I've worked on your campaign. Yeah, I mean, like, but to your point, Brian, I mean, you can be a really nice guy and leave it at that if your system of government only requires like an affable dude who's going to fill a seat. And
exactly. And then when you step up to that next level of having to kind of back it up, and then that's kind of all there is. Like, I don't know. Yeah. He came to the hot dog safari. He was charming. He was great. He's
a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
I do want to say that he did give us something amazing, because there's a picture of him at the safari, and it is, to me, can be described in no other way than Bobby Boucher's dad from The Waterboy, which of course gave us this Travis Photoshop, which is
that's awesome.
Kind of a distillation of his campaign too.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing that jumped out to me that really kind of threw me for a loop was when, and it was one of the times that there was some pause in the audio, but when Joe was describing Donna as being less conservative than Connie Lukes.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
I mean,
because
it just showed a real
say Connie's name.
Right.
He just said, "Oh, well, back when Tim Murray was running for state office, no one told him he couldn't run." even
Yeah.
though the person who would take his place is, as he said, more conservative than Donna Calorio. But I don't really, one, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
And two, that's a really bad argument.
It's a bad
You know?
argument. Yeah.
It's a
And-
terrible argument, but it
Yeah.
is like also you're trying to compare somebody who started serving in politics, I think before the Civil War, with somebody who just came in like 6 years ago,
Who's never heard
yeah.
of the Civil War?
Yeah, and
who still
also,
refers to it as the War of Northern Aggression, right? Like this is
yeah,
we have a different set of problems on our
Yeah.
hands
She
right now.
keeps saying
pal.
the lost cause all the time.
yeah. I mean, Donna Calorio is like a QAnon freak and very hostile towards LGBTQ issues, and she gets a vote on the school committee. And Joe didn't answer that part about her having a vote on the school committee. He tried to say that the fundamental balance of power wouldn't be shifted on the city council because Matt Wally is going to vote the same way as Joe Petty in almost every instance.
Which I also disagree with.
Yeah.
I know they're not hugely different, but I think not having Matt Wally on this council is a win in a lot of ways.
Right,
So,
right. I mean, like, if there are only going to be sort of small differences between Kennedy and Petty in terms of the way that they'll vote, then it's in everyone's interest to keep him on the city council and have her take the seat. And that's not even making any sort of like value statement about Kennedy as a candidate over Petty. I think that after listening to Kennedy last night and listening to her tonight, I think it's gonna be pretty obvious that she's got a couple more brain cells than us.
she's just more serious. I think she's just more serious about this stuff. I think it's not, the what I keep hearing from people that are like, big supporters of Joe Petty. Like, granted, they're like commenting online and stuff, but like, I keep hearing this argument. It's like, well, he's been working for Worcester for so long, he deserves this. And
it's his time. Yeah,
like I hate that argument so much. Like, because that doesn't do anything for me. Like, okay, great, give him a fucking medal. Like, hey, listen, he can give himself the key to the city whenever he wants to, in recognition of all his, his great work. But like, if I'm looking for somebody to represent me, there's no, like, what's in it for me in that situation? Like, yeah, sure, fine, he deserves it. What does that get me?
Right.
I don't know. It's it was interesting also that no one brought up the fucking smear job that he tried to do on Kennedy with the 2 donations in the women for Massachusetts PAC.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that'll get brought up tonight. I hope it does.
I hope it does too, because when you really break down what people were insinuating, they're accusing her of campaign finance violations.
Like, that was really, really savagely stupid and underhanded. And I don't know.
Incredibly stupid, considering that, and this isn't an insult to the electorate, it's just reality. The majority of people who vote in Massachusetts have never heard of the Office of Campaign Finance, right? Like that, it's a non-entity. So you basically took somebody who at least was perceived as having a lack of name recognition and gave them more name recognition than they ever possibly could have dreamed of getting by accusing them of doing something that, even if OCPF does an investigation, like, you might get a report sometime next spring. It has no bearing on the election whatsoever.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also I keep meaning to do this, but just have better shit to do. But the way that they worded that release was like, we're calling on OCPF to look into this. I don't think they sent an email, filed a complaint, or did anything.
We're yelling
just
really
like,
loud out the window to OCPF.
Yeah, they were just like, hey, OCPF, hopefully you see this press release from our campaign and our board, but
this is a great question from Feeney. Honestly, I mean, just from my layman's perspective, it's impossible to know. There's no such thing as polling for a race like this, especially in a primary. So we just have no idea. But what I will say is that there's so few votes as well for like something like this that, I mean, it's almost not even worth like worrying about whether or not it's like,
what's up, Benny Blanco?
Hey, Ben. Who knows? But again, like with the city council this year, it doesn't take a lot to swing something like this.
Right. Right. And what I'll say is I think this is going to be a close one because Petty has the name recognition and is almost weirdly running as the incumbent in this race because of that, even though it's technically an open seat. But the campaign infrastructure that Robyn is using is the same one that got Attell elected to city council, and they are really aggressive and do good individual outreach. And she talked a lot about how many doors she's knocked on and all of that. And I don't think Joe is working as hard or has as savvy or motivated a campaign staff or infrastructure. So in a very low turnout sort of contest, like this is going to be like just having put the legwork in might be doing a lot, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think it's gonna be very close.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and yeah, I mean, I think it's just the nature of these things usually not being competitive, that to have a little bit of competition is just going to ensure that there's a close, a very close vote.
Yeah.
Just referring to a comment that Lena the Grouch. What you mean? You don't have to dox yourself, but are you in Worcester? And like, what part of the city? Because I think this is actually what it comes down to: is that the Petty campaign is going to take for granted that he has high name recognition as a city councilor in Worcester, and Worcester makes up just over 60% of the district. So if they can just take that for granted and add on like a Northborough, they've got the math works for them. But I think there's probably some underestimating of how much door knocking Robyn is doing in the city, because she's not just putting everything on social media. She's just doing the work, which
right.
drawing a parallel to Attell's campaign, very similar. Like, you don't have to show off for everybody the work you're doing if you're actually doing the work, because the people who are applauding you and clicking on little hearts and likes on social media, they're not necessarily voters. The people behind doors are.
Yeah.
And that, I think that in a town like Worcester, in a race like this, like somebody being like, "Oh, Robyn, she came to my door," and actually I was like pretty impressed by that. You know, like that's the thing that is maybe undervalued, but like as Attell showed, like just showing up for people and kind of in a real way while also having command of like how to help them is, you know, I think a good combo. And yeah, I've gotten probably an equal amount of mailings from both of them.
I don't get the mailers because I live on Grafton Hill and no one here votes.
They don't bother.
So no, they don't.
I got carved out into another Senate district, so I don't even count anymore.
Oh, so wow. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So you're an outside analyst on this one.
I have no skin in the game. Yeah. And Gobi, you let me know what you need, but otherwise I'm a free agent.
Oh, wow.
So
this thing's kicking off at 6, huh? Do we got do we have a stream to throw on?
We do. It's there. I'm hearing it. I don't know if you guys can hear it now. There's a lot of room tone in there, but they haven't started yet. I keep getting a pop up of one of the cameras. It looks like they're still setting up. So
okay.
I'll keep an eye on it. We'll jump in as soon as they go, and then we'll go from there. But was there any other stuff that jumped out to you last night, Bill?
No, not really. I think that the fossil fuel pilot thing was like really the big the where they showed the most space between each other, and they were pretty similar on a lot of other issues. On the MCAS testing question, Robyn was a lot more anti-MCAS than Joe was, but they mostly felt the same about that. Housing, Robyn had a better answer, but not like an incredibly detailed sort of articulate answer. Joe was just like home ownership programs and there's empty apartments. You know, it was just kind of like, okay, that's you don't really know or care.
One of the things that stood out to me was he seemed to have a really tough time right to the end, like code switching between talking to Worcester and talking to an actual Senate district.
Right. Yeah.
You can tell that he has spent 30 years talking to a city and is not quite comfortable talking about an actual district or the Commonwealth as a whole.
Yeah. It really seemed like he's like, I'm Mr. Mayor. Why wouldn't you vote for me? People trust me. You know, that's what he was like.
The mayor.
I'm the mayor.
Brendan, you mentioned something about an answer he had on climate change. I think that was
the well, I mean, in particular was the natural gas one. And that was, yeah, I mean, Mayor Wu in Boston, is trying to put together a collection of cities and towns that will, like Boston, will join Boston and put in a moratorium on natural gas hookups to new construction projects, which I don't know. I mean, that's one of those things that if you asked me 10 years ago, I'd be like, it's the craziest thing in the world. Like, I can't come up with a single reason why you would not want to do that at this point in
Yeah.
time, especially
Yeah,
at
right.
this point in time where the costs of natural gas are rising exponentially and electricity is at least manageable because
Yeah.
solar exists. And it was just his roundabout way of answering it that we'll push it to committee or whatever. It seemed to miss the point entirely that, like, no, we're talking about the climate, dude. Like, we're again, this is one of those things that scientists get to say. Whoever the hell is in charge, is it Sean Rose? Like, no offense to Sean, man, but like ECDEV does not get a say in this one at all. It's
no, exactly. They're the opposite of it.
Right.
Like, and that we're at the point now where like you have to at the very least push for quote unquote extreme solutions because we're past the point of like making incremental change, and we're probably only going to get incremental change, but the only way to get that is to push for extreme change.
Yeah.
And that's awful. But if you're willing to settle for nothing, then
well, and
that's what we're going to get less than
I feel
nothing.
like people just get so there's a certain population that gets so angry about even the idea of change, right? Because this is very similar to saying like we're going to start installing superchargers for electric vehicles around the city. Nobody is saying that you can't put gas in your car. Like you probably get another 30 years where there'll still be gas stations around.
They just built another gas station.
But we're also going to have EV chargers, and like that's how market forces actually play themselves out. This is very similar. Like nobody's saying natural gas is going away. We're saying whatever the number is of new construction homes starting in some yet to be determined year, we're not going to link them up to natural gas. And there's a market for that. Like let the market figure that out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Joe just didn't seem like a serious candidate next to her. I think is the general sort of vibe and takeaway of that whole thing.
And that's in some ways I know like that's a shame because they like what does he have to lose really? Like like he could push a little farther. I think if you talk to him personally, he has the capacity to go farther than he does. But he's so much more popular than anyone else in Worcester itself on the city council that he could go farther and not really lose his place if that's what he's worried about.
I don't.
So it's a shame, but
I just want to make note of Ben's comment there because you're not wrong, Ben. But at the same time, that's where we don't give ourselves enough credit. If Massachusetts, California, and maybe New York decided like, hey, fuck natural gas would no longer be a service. It would be we would view it the way we now view oil tanks in the basement. It's just something gone and outdated.
So let me check. Their sound sounds bad, but
I'll be right back.
In person, and for those of you who are at home virtually participating in this forum tonight, we're grateful to all of you. So thank you for coming. My name is Kim Dawkins. I'm the president and CEO of Pathways for Change, which has been around, believe it or not, since 1973. And we are a nonprofit, community-based organization serving any and all gender survivors of sexual violence and their significant others. And we are also deeply committed to social change issues that impact our wider community. So we're presenting this forum tonight in partnership with some of our sister organizations in the community. The League of Women Voters of Worcester area, the Jane Fund of Central Massachusetts, the NAACP Worcester.
This is a really bad sound, huh?
Yes. Yeah, it sounds like they're not plugged into the board.
Informed and active participation from our community in our efforts to create a safer, equitable, and inclusive community for all of us. This forum forum is part of our ongoing.
Yeah, I guess we might have to turn us down if that's possible.
Yeah.
You, all of us,
Yeah.
all of our voters, to make informed decisions, especially with the upcoming September 6th primary for the next state senator of the 1st District, Worcester. We hope that over the course of this forum tonight, you will learn more about both our candidates and what they.
Yeah, the closed captioning really helps here.
Yeah. I'll keep messing with it a little bit, but they're not plugged into the board, so they're just miking the room.
Who's hosting the live?
Pathways for Change.
Okay. That's the official one?
Yes. Yeah, we can, if anyone knows anyone else that's streaming it, we can try it.
The worst of this room hopefully is behind us now. But in the event of an emergency, exits are located also to the rear in the lounge, by the lounge, and also to your right. In our interest for a meaningful and respectful forum, we ask that you take this time to listen closely to the questions presented to and answers from our candidates. Our moderators for tonight's forum, who both reside outside of the Worcester First District, are Raquel Knight. Raquel is the director for the Central Massachusetts Women's Business Center at the Center for Women and Enterprise.
Oh boy.
And she's also the founder and board chairperson of For One Child Foundation Incorporated.
Not a Hollywood production here, folks.
No.
Provide comfortable learning environments for kids attending school in rural and remote Jamaica. Raquel is also a graduate of Becker College and a startup Worcester alum. And we also have Brenda Sanford.
If we have any ambitious followers that want to go there right now and sit in the front row and get on Facebook Live.
Yeah, we'll plug you in. Yeah, we can jump you in.
Yeah, whatever. We'll be all right.
It's not. I can hear them talking about the sound a little bit, so hopefully they're trying to fix it. Yeah. See, it just went out. It went out. Okay. Well,
that was exciting.
This is great. Okay, Brendan, you be Robyn, and I'll be Joe, and
Okay.
we'll just make up what they're saying.
Where is
Brian,
this physically?
you
turn
asked
it
the question.
over
here we go.
to our first moderator that will speak
wow.
tonight, and that is Brenda. Thank you, Brenda.
All
Thank
right.
you, Kim.
All it took was me
Welcome,
complaining on
everyone.
Facebook. See,
Let's
that's
get
what you need to
started.
do, everybody. Get on
Let me
Facebook.
first thank both candidates, Robyn Kennedy and Joe Petty, for agreeing to participate in this forum. Candidate Lisa Mayer, who is running as an independent, was also invited to participate but was unable
feel
to.
like
Oh yeah,
it's
that lady.
It's a little awkward, the setup that
We
like
hope that the candidates.
it's almost like your
response
moderator is your sponsor.
asked here tonight are helpful
Yeah,
in
right.
making an
Your
informed
lawyer.
decision
Yeah.
for September the 6th. The questions asked
Don't
tonight
answer that one.
have been submitted online by residents through our Eventbrite registration. From some of you on the index cards provided as you enter in here tonight, and as well as from our co-presenting partner organizations in advance. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce the second moderator, Raquel.
Thank you, Brenda. Good night, everyone. Welcome to this State Senate Candidate Forum. I will start by explaining some rules for the forum, which each candidate received ahead of time. These are the instructions for the candidates. You will have 3 minutes for an opening statement, 3 minutes for a
What's the
closing
deal with
statement,
Mayor?
and a maximum of 90 seconds to answer each
Wow.
question.
2 mayors in the race.
No interruptions or rebuttals may be permitted by either candidate. Each candidate will
2
be
mayors, 1
asked the
seat. That's
same
what I say.
question to answer. Opening and closing statements will be alphabetical by last name for opening statements
I'm gonna
and the
keep trying
reverse
to
for
get the sound
closing.
right. So everybody, let me know if it
Therefore,
doesn't sound
Robyn
good or
Kennedy
anything like
will
that.
start first for opening statements, and Joe Petty will be first for closing statements. The timekeeper is sitting in the first row, right there. When there is 60 seconds or 1 minute left on your speaking time, the timekeeper will hold up a card that says 60 seconds, indicating that you have 60 seconds to finish your answer. When there
No
is
way.
30 seconds left on your speaking time, the timekeeper will hold up a card that says 30 seconds. Please wrap up when you see the stop card. If you continue speaking after the stop card is held up, I will say thank you and move on to the next candidate. Personal references about other candidates will not be permitted. Please note that this forum is being recorded, live streamed via Zoom, and will be available for later viewing on Facebook and YouTube.
Wow, no fucking shout out.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
Instructions to the audience.
Joe Petty told a friend of ours that
Please
he
turn
thinks
off your cell
Toomey
phones,
watches our stream during the
beeping
meetings.
watches, pagers,
That's
and
so
any
sick.
other alerting devices now.
Allegedly.
Please
She
remain
definitely
quiet
at least watches them
throughout the
after
forum.
Yeah.
and
No
cries,
clapping,
which is awesome.
cheering, or calling out, with the exception that after
During.
the candidates close
Yeah,
their
on her
During.
little
statement,
tablet.
you may clap for all candidates if you wish.
Got one
somebody-
tab for us.
No
If somebody
campaign
can be in the
literature or
gallery and
signs
get a
are
shot of
allowed
that,
inside
then
this
you know I'm
room.
willing to pay for that.
Questions
Yeah,
from the
I would
audience
pay
will be called
good money
upon
for that.
as time permits.
Like 20 fucking
If
bucks
there
here.
are any
Oh yeah,
of
I'll
you
double
who
that.
have
I'll match it.
have written your questions on
I was
an
just looking
index
at Lisa
card,
Mayer's
a volunteer
bio
will
on her
collect them
page.
from
So,
you now.
like, she's certified in applied functional
For
medicine,
any that have a question on
and
the
I had
index
no idea what
card,
that was. So I
a
googled
volunteer
applied functional
now.
medicine, and
Okay.
like the number one result is applied functional medicine legitimate? And the answer is it has been described as pseudoscience, quackery,
All
and at
right.
its essence,
So we're gonna
rebranding of
start off with our
complementary and
opening
alternative medicine.
statements,
So yeah,
and
she's a
as
quack.
mentioned earlier,
That's
we will
awesome.
start with Robyn.
She's probably just
and
reading the
then Joe
comments, so
Petty
it's
will
all you
follow
guys that are in
after.
trouble, not
You
us.
have 3 minutes for your opening statement.
She's probably watching right now.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Hi, Kathleen.
Thank you, Reverend Payson, for opening up your home to us today. Thank you to the phenomenal organizations that I had the opportunity to partner with in the community, Pathways for Change, Abby's House, League of Women Voters, NAACP, and all the other partners that are part of this event tonight. I also want to thank our moderators for being part of this conversation, and certainly all of those who are here today and those who are joining us online. This is democracy in action. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be part of this conversation. Senator Chandler has been a longtime champion for women and families. With the battle
Same
that
exact
we
opening statement as last.
I don't like that.
horizon, we need leadership like hers now more than ever. I am looking to continue her strong voice while bringing fresh eyes and new energy.
Just riff
As a
something.
first-time candidate, I
Just
come
let
to
it
this
rip.
race with experience working in the Massachusetts State Senate, in the executive branch, and working directly in our community. Working in the State Senate, my focus was constituent services. I understand firsthand the moving parts of the legislature and the legislative process. Working for Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray, I helped implement statewide policy on issues including housing instability and homelessness, domestic
And I
violence
drove him
services,
home.
and substance misuse. And as the chief operating officer at the YWCA, working with our team, I served women in need of transitional housing, families seeking affordable childcare, and survivors fleeing domestic violence. And I was there with our phenomenal staff every day as we stayed open throughout the pandemic to make sure all members of our community got the support that they needed. I know firsthand the challenges that we face, and I know how government can and should work to fix them. I'm convinced that the right leaders with the right energy and the right experience can tackle those challenges. I am also convinced that when we turn to our community and uplift the work that you are doing, we can inspire new solutions. I am tired of the status quo. I am tired of government that serves some while leaving out so many. I want to bring my experience serving in state government and serving our community to make a difference for our future, and I want to do so working with you. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the questions tonight.
All right, Joe.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad everybody's out of the rain right now, and it only rained one day this summer, and it was today. But just want to thank him. Thank you for organizing this, and Reverend Payson for putting this together, and all the different organizations.
Freaking Joe.
The moderators here today. I wanna thank
That was the
Robyn.
other weird thing about the natural gas thing yesterday. He took that soft approach on a day that he declared a water
Well,
emergency.
I've been mayor of
Right, yeah.
years. I'm in my 11th year. In that time, we've seen not only unprecedented growth here in the city of Worcester, but investment in our communities that will ensure an equitable future for all residents here in the city of Worcester. By way of introduction, I'm a lifer in the city of Worcester. I grew up here. I'm married to my wife, Gail. We have three children, Joseph and Andrew. I'm an attorney. I run the pension system. You know, I played a lot of different roles.
And I'm running for my 4th state pension. Trying to collect them all.
Municipal level. And I saw so much of the disparities and the difference between the resources and the needs and during the COVID period. And I thought I could be that person to bring back the resources in our district, the first Worcester district, to get it done. I'm proud of the work that I've done here in the city of Worcester. You know, we invested over $500 million by building Nelson.
Oh
Place,
man, if Joe Petty gets elected, he's going to be such an earmark guy. It's going to be like, check it out, $500 for new fucking doggy bags at the dog park. Let's do a ribbon cutting.
LED lighting on Route 20. We took care of the storage system over there, but also created economic development parcels.
If it was a bigger deal that he had a fake job, I would totally look into it. But it really is a fake job, right? Like, I don't care if you have a fake job. That's cool. I mean,
Yeah, he is.
most jobs are fake.
Most
but
jobs
like,
are fake, yeah.
let's be real here. That's like a fake ass job, right?
Comes to public health. You know, working with Matty Castile, also with.
But he did work for years at the old Abdow's Big Boy in Webster Square, and that's like the realest of real jobs. So I think
The what?
Abdow's.
I don't know.
It's before your time here in Worcester, Bill. That's where Moe's is now.
Okay.
That used to be a Big Boy, like Bob's Big Boy from California, but ours was called Abdow.
Really?
Yeah.
It was fucking
That's
crazy.
where he worked?
Had a big statue out front that used to get stolen every couple of years. It was fantastic.
That's sick.
Yeah, he used to work there. Hell of a hamburger cook. And then the city council called.
And also our seniors. Taking care of our seniors is very important.
You know what they say, a great leader doesn't seek to lead. He's called to it.
Playground that's there now. So I'm going to ask for your vote.
Who called Joe for this one?
Day after Labor Day, day after.
I don't know.
I just want to thank the audience also.
Mike Angelini was like, okay, who's the most useless guy in our role?
All right, let's get to the good stuff. All right, now we'll move on to the.
Seems like that mic is a lot quieter than the other mic.
Mm-hmm.
If time allows, we will.
I would suggest that they put the dials level for the 2 channels.
We have 90 seconds to answer each question, and we're going to start off with you, Joe. And
Yeah, maybe crank it a little bit for Joe. I know it's annoying,
so
but
the first question.
I'll just ride it when he's talking.
Joe,
Yeah.
do you support comprehensive sex education, including LGBT?
What a softball.
Information in public school K through 12? Will you vote in favor of the Healthy Youth Act, and why or why not?
Yes, next question.
Here with that, we've done it here in the city of Worcester when it comes to education. It's an initial of mine. It took me a few years to get it through, the right people and the right program. And it's made a difference. Can you imagine not having sex ed in Worcester Public Schools?
God, this is a boring question.
Years ago,
Yeah, everyone at Ralph's is really mad at me
well, we're accepting it and coming back into the
because I was
classroom.
funny on the internet.
And I was one of the big supporters of the Healthy Youth Act, and Jim McKay
It's
sponsored that.
so it's
In the House.
one of the great memes.
The vote there, and it was just-
I think it's one of the great
Nailed it.
Worcester memes.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, I guess I pissed off every single person that was there. So.
I thought it was charming.
There's so many-
How
Me
did you piss them
too.
off? And how did I
Me
miss it?
too.
so many
I'll send
questions
it.
on children
Hold on.
today that this is needed, so they understand the issues that they face. Look at the
God, that was such a
results.
bad opening question.
Yeah.
Believe it.
As a country, when some of the big issues going on.
So
This is
in
going to be
Joe's
a rough
response-
one.
As the mayor of the
Joe's
city of
response to
Worcester,
that, I had I have it on
that
good
will make
authority that the
sure
bishop called
that
Joe
people are
personally
properly educated
and threatened
here in
his
the city.
soul with eternal
And he's a
damnation.
supporter of comprehensive
And like
sex
that
ed.
should be Joe's response to this is like, look, dude, I'm an old white Catholic guy. The fucking bishop called me and threatened my soul with
Thank you so
eternal
much, and
damnation.
I wanna
Where do
acknowledge
you
I
think I stand
forgot
on
to
this?
include the Jane Fund in my opening remarks. I certainly want to acknowledge you and your partnership here today, and certainly all
To
the
his
work
credit, he
you
has
do
been good on
Hey.
that.
women
Hi,
and
Doug Arbiter.
individuals in our community that are seeking and can't find affordable access to comprehensive reproductive care. So thank you. I too support comprehensive sex education. I was proud as part of the YWCA to be part of the
Worcester,
WISH
it's
task
like
force
Rome.
here
We got 7 hills and an even worse pope.
and pushing the school committee to implement
I love the
comprehensive sex ed
bartenders
in
there
our
too.
schools.
They just can't take a
At the
fucking joke.
YWCA, years ago, we implemented a child abuse prevention program so that beginning with early education and care programming, we could implement age-appropriate comprehensive care so we can teach our youngest children to know about their bodies, to be able to identify and find safe adults in the community that they can seek help from if they need it. And we also made sure that our young women and our young women's leadership development program had access to comprehensive sex education when they were not able to get it in the Worcester Public Schools. So I absolutely have been a part of not only making sure that we're implementing it, but to also help pass it at the city level, but also would certainly work proactively to make sure that it passes in the legislature so that we don't have to rely on local school boards to make the decision to pass it. So thank you.
I like that
Question
answer.
number 2. First, we're going to go with Robyn, and then
Joe Petty was mayor for like a decade where there was no sex ed.
Yes,
And
exactly.
that just got done last year.
He shouldn't have pointed that out. And also her answer about taking it like that's a question. That's an answer about the larger,
Sure.
district.
So
Wait, hold on. I
one of
missed,
the most
sorry, I missed the
recent
question.
initiatives that I've been a part of that is doing incredible work in our community is an organization called E for All, which is Entrepreneurship for All, which is about helping small and growing businesses. And
What was
has
the
been
question?
incredibly deliberate about making sure that those
I didn't catch
businesses
it.
are diverse,
Yeah.
not only in the identity of the business owners, but in the types of business. So those that may not have access to traditional pathways to workforce development have that access. And in supporting this program through mentorship, through seed funding, through investment, we're helping dozens right now. It's a new organization, but dozens of new buildings grow and thrive, and making sure that we're deliberate in investing in a diverse business economy.
This is an important issue that small business does run the country, runs the city of Worcester. I was pretty proud. We did a study a few years back, and that's 40% of small businesses in Worcester were from immigrants, people coming into the country. It's probably grown since then. And what we've done, I learned a lot during COVID. What I learned during COVID was people didn't have a lot of access to information how government works. We gave a lot of small grants out during COVID to small businesses, especially women in business and communities of color. We gave $5,000 and I think $10,000 grants to make sure they could survive COVID, they keep their business open. And we also in the city hall, which I could bring to the state senate.
Yeah, if she loses the primary, it's just going to be
We've grown a lot in a
depressing.
few years in Worcester, making business easy to do business so people understand. And people understand how to apply for an application. That's what I learned during COVID a lot too. They had all these grant funds. And nobody really knew how to apply for it. We didn't do a great job in that, but it's fine. We're getting better at it. But understand that small business doesn't have the time sometimes to go through a process of 30 pages or 60 pages to fill out. They need an answer right away. So I'm a big supporter of small business, big supporter of diversity. And this is Worcester. Worcester's a changing city. And they have to, everybody, we're not going to succeed as a city unless everybody
What the fuck, dude?
grows with us as a city of Worcester.
Yeah, I like to send them links to information on our website.
That response was literally, I
Here
support
in
small
Worcester, we
business
have
by making
a
them suffer.
housing crisis. There are not enough affordable
true, Matt.
housing units,
Housing,
and
here we go.
landlords are not being held accountable for renting unsafe units in older buildings. If elected, what will you do to ensure that all people have access to safe, affordable housing?
This is a big issue. We talked about this, and I think every forum, affordable housing is a point for the city to survive in other cities, that people have access. And there's a story on today's, and anybody could be unhoused the next day in terms of affordable housing. There was a story in today's paper of a gentleman who made good money, but they're actually now in other parts of the country, they're actually bidding out rental apartments. And who's the highest bidder gets the rental apartment. These are the things that we need to address by putting funding together to make sure funding is available for people who have affordable housing. In Worcester, we've created a lot of programs for the unhoused and for people who need housing. One of the biggest things we found was about $1 billion in deferred maintenance. We're going to be announcing over the next week with the ARPA money, how people can apply for that. We're going to be putting millions of dollars into
Drop
that
that in the
program.
comments as
We're
well.
going to be putting money into the Worcester Housing First initiative. Those announcements should be coming out next week for the Lewis Street apartments and also for the tiny homes. So this is an issue that I think we have a good model here in the city of Worcester that we can be replicated in other parts of the state, in other parts. And as a state senator, this is the most important issue because every town that I'm in the first Worcester district, we always ask the question, are your children going to be able to afford a house in the town that they grew up in? And it's getting tougher and tougher. And this is something that we need a statewide initiative in how to address this, to make sure people can stay in their hometowns.
Oh, they'll get over the meme. They'll get
Issue
over
that
it.
is coming up quite frequently in these forums.
They've been mad at me
Something
before. That's
every
okay.
day as I'm on the doors across the district. It's so important that we understand the nuances between affordable housing, workforce housing, both in the city of Worcester as it relates to not only renters, but homeowners who've seen their property taxes skyrise and are hanging on to be able to stay in the home that they've lived in their whole
That is
lives.
a
We also have to look
valid
what it means
comment,
for renters
Cryptid Kid.
who have
That
seen
the
their rents
question was
skyrocket by
about how do we keep roofs
60%.
from falling on people's heads,
Worcester
not about
has
how do
been
we get the
becoming
roofs up there
unaffordable
in the
for
first
many
place.
years now, and those of us in the community doing the work have seen that coming and have been working to prevent it. And so certainly addressing 40B at the
Yeah,
state
but
level,
Matt, he would have to know or care about that
housing is something we really need
in order to say
tackle
that.
as a state. But for me, I'm really interested in getting back to work on the Interagency Council on Housing and Homelessness that was chaired by Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray when I was working for him, because we also have to get to the
I think
root
it is
cause
really weird that
our
the
homeless system.
obviously progressive candidate in this
And to
race
serve
is
families that are
constantly name
experiencing
checking
homelessness. There's far
the
more
head
to
of the Worcester
push
Chamber of
families
Commerce
into
and her other
homelessness
boss
than
who
it
now
does
works
to
at Bain
provide
Capital.
families with the resources
Like,
Yeah,
they need
it
to be able to
does.
stay
It is the
in
one
the
thing about her that gives me pause.
and
Yes.
Yeah.
avoid having to go into business. We need to change that system
And,
to, again,
you know,
proactive at working to address
I'm
this.
sorry, I forgot there was
Whatever.
Murray in the house. Jack, please, no offense to the family. I'm just saying it's a weird look for me,
No.
just for me.
He hates his family. Haven't you?
Right.
Don't you remember?
Robin, you would go
He's-
first.
He's the bad boy of the Murray clan.
If it lets
okay. Let's just focus on the issues here.
protect reproductive rights,
Huh?
particularly the right to safe and accessible abortion procedures, medication, and care.
Yes, absolutely. And this is an issue that has been, core to my work, to my beliefs, my entire life. It's something that I fought on the front lines.
Yeah, it's totally valid, Mo. I
in
think I spend more time
2004 in
making fun of the
Washington,
fact that
D.C.
Joe's been mayor for 30 fucking
Most
years and
recently
the
when I
city
was
still smells
advocating
funny.
when
But
we saw the Supreme Court
I'm
get
not
women
knocking Robyn on
over
qualifications at all. I just think that one aspect of the campaign is just an
And
odd
we need the kind of
look.
proactive leadership that Senator Chandler brought
Yeah.
to this seat. Not only to make sure that we continue to protect our rights here in Massachusetts, but to address the fact that transgender and gender nonconforming individuals can't access affirmative.
All these questions are just like, are you a Democrat?
We have to address the fact, and I was saying that.
How
the fact
can
that
you recite the party line of the
Black women are
Democratic Party?
1.9 times higher than they are for white women. Unfortunately, I saw a report come out of the White House just yesterday that says that
Also
nationally
fair.
that number is that it's
That is,
3
yeah,
times higher, getting
yeah,
worse.
unfortunately.
We need to address the disparities at that
No,
core level.
yeah.
Because
This
it's
is
not
very
enough
good.
to say we're safe here in Massachusetts. We're safer because of Senator Chandler and because of the Roe Act and her proactive leadership. But there is far more work that we need to do proactively to make sure that every individual in our Commonwealth can access safe, affordable, comprehensive reproductive care, and that someday the Jane Fund can put their funds into other efforts rather than having to help women access that care. Thank you.
It's a very
Nice.
good answer.
That's a
Very
good line. Yeah.
Yes, yes, can you hear me?
Turn it more on, Joe. More on.
I like it when the women get the abortions. Kidding. He's not
Never,
that bad.
never put a wireless mic in the hands of somebody that doesn't know how to fix it.
Okay, the answer to that is yes. I do support that.
God. Parks and Rec, dude.
You know, one of the few mayors that did sign on.
I think my cable fell out.
Asked me to sign on, and it's an important issue. And thank God that we did that time. Who realized you only knew it was going to come from the Supreme Court, but not that.
A lot of people. That's why it was.
Senator Chandler was put
Oh,
there,
God.
change the laws, codify this, get rid of the old laws that could take reproductive rights away from women. But I don't have the lived experiences of women, but I listen, I pay attention, I understand the issue.
He did not write that line. Just going to say that for the record.
Did you just see him look down?
And also codify.
I just can't imagine a universe where Joe Petty would ever say, I do not have the lived experience. That's
people outside of Massachusetts.
He's never said that before in his life.
People, the women that come here from outside of Massachusetts, I can receive an abortion. And this doesn't stop with abortion. Now you're going with the LGBTQ community. That's the next step that the Supreme Court wants to take. Then after that, it's going to be the Voting Rights Act. They're already doing it now in other parts of the country. We're lucky we live in a state like Massachusetts, but we have to be on our guard. We're going to have to work as a state senator. I work hard every day to make sure these laws will never be changed here in the state. Thank you.
I'm going to do push-ups every day so I can kick Ohio's ass in the coming Civil War.
In Massachusetts, 16-year-olds are considered to legally be capable of consenting to sexual intercourse, which mirrors the age of consent for abortion rights. If elected, would you support legislation to lower the age of consent for getting an abortion without a guardian?
All right, a good question.
This is a good question.
There are times the guardian or another family member could be the person who raped the minor child, and going to the guardian for permission to get an abortion could be problematic for that minor.
The answer to that is yes. This is a sensitive issue in some respects, but when this issue came up in the Roe Act,
I gotta teach him how to talk into a microphone.
is that every case that was appealed to a judge, the judge only upheld it once.
pretend it's a hot dog, Joe. You're not sticking it in your nose. You're putting it in your mouth.
And this is an important
Feeding it back.
medical association. Can you hear me? The medical association. And so yes, I do support that. And I think that it goes the whole package.
He went right back to holding it the wrong way.
Health here in the state of Massachusetts, and I will be the state senator that does that. Thank you.
Now we know why there are microphones and counselor on little stands.
I too agree and would support reducing the age of consent to 14 to be able to make decisions about reproductive health care. Far too often we do see that case, as you mentioned, that unfortunately the guardian or the caretaker
yeah.
parent
Headset
is
mic.
either not safe for the child to go to or is the person that impregnated the child. And so I do certainly believe in that. But I think we have to go further. This is an example of why comprehensive sex education is so important, why we are teaching our young people about sex ed and how to protect themselves and how to consent and how to receive consent. And we also have to be mindful now of what our young people are experiencing. I hear from teenagers now that are stopping to use their period tracking apps because they're afraid that they're going to be monitored by the government, who are not giving their doctors full information because they're afraid that they'll be told or that they'll be turned into their parents or turned in to somebody for seeking information or seeking care. We have to do a better job about protecting our young women and our young people in our community. We have to support efforts and organizations that are doing work with our young adults to make sure that they're getting these tools so that they can have the information, they can get the support they need, they can find that caring adult in their life that is going to help them work through these situations and make sure that they're addressing the trauma that is associated with some of these decisions.
a 10,000% better answer than Petty's.
Robyn, you will go first, and then Joe. What are your budget priorities, and how would they impact women and children and communities around the Commonwealth?
My number one priority in getting into the state Senate is investing in our care economy workforce, from early education and care teachers to mental health counselors to paraprofessionals in our schools to substance misuse counselors, all the way up to home health aides and CNAs. These are workforces that have been undervalued and underpaid for too long. And let's make the point to this. The reason they've been undervalued and underpaid for so long is because these workforces are mostly women, women of color, and immigrants in our community. And we need to change
Joe
that.
Petty was
We
the
saw through
chair of the
pandemic
school
how
committee when
workforces were
comprehensive
decimated.
sex education
Because we
died
can't retain
quietly
higher
in
quality
2018.
teachers in our classrooms. There are classrooms across the
Could have done
state that
something
are
about that,
closed
didn't
or
he?
that are at reduced capacity, and they're creating long wait lists with slots going unused. And this is an issue. There's 1 million women nationally who are trying to get back into the workforce, and childcare, affordable, accessible childcare is the number one reason why they can't. My number one priority is to make sure that the
Also
providers in
true.
our communities have the resources available to be able to pay their teachers.
Would probably say a nice thing about to this day.
And not be chasing minimum
Yeah.
wage. It's not good enough. We need to make sure that everyone
Fuck you,
makes
John
a
Monferno.
livable wage so that they can
Yep.
afford to stay in our community, but so that they can also then be able to provide the services that we all rely upon at one time in our lives.
I was doing a mic change. Could you just ask the question?
What are your budget priorities, and how would they impact women and children and communities around the Commonwealth?
I think my budget issues, you hearing us this all right? Okay. It's definitely housing, affordable housing. Housing goes to everything. Housing is important for any child's education, a family's education. Make sure everybody feels
It's
safe.
so
That would
there's
be a
this old
priority,
saying,
along with
you know,
mental health.
the a
Mental health, we
schlemiel
don't
is somebody
even
who
understand
spills
yet
their
the
soup.
impact
The schlemazel is somebody that
COVID-19
gets
on
the
our
soup
children,
spilled on
our
them.
adults here.
Joe is the person the
And those
schlemiel and the
public schools,
schlemazel
we're
are
going to
laughing
hire
at.
wraparound coordinators, hire different, more counselors. We're trying to hire more psychologists to address these issues. So this is going to be a priority of mine.
No,
Mental
she'll be
health is
back.
personal to me. I think
This is a
everybody in
resume
this room
builder
probably
for
knows
her.
somebody who has mental health issues.
It does stop her
And,
from running for mayor,
We
hopefully.
have very successful
I hope
community,
so,
very
but she's
successful
gonna come
state.
back.
As a senator, I will support these initiatives, make sure everyone is taken care of here in Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Lady Farquaad. I just came up with that. That's pretty strong.
That's very good.
Ring Benenda, Lady Farquaad.
Question number 7, Joe, then Robyn. All right.
Same haircut.
Do you support an option? Do you support an option of non-police or mental health workers?
Oh, here we go.
Response to 911 calls? Yes, no, and why?
The answer is okay. Okay. The answer is yes, and we've done it here in the city of Worcester. We started that initiative
When, in the 70s?
several years ago when we had the
Oh, my God.
convention, bringing people together. And it's made a difference. A lot of these people in this room are
Dude.
part of that group who work very hard to make sure our children, even our adults, and part of this group, that their issues are addressed here in the
What?
schools.
This
or
is
in the
this is a
community.
lie.
We realize it's just not the individual child, it's the family that you have to bring in to see if they have the resources to take care of the situation. And this year, we put $1 million away to send councils out with the police or without the police in the future once we cross that line of training, when we have an impact in the community. So I definitely.
What are you
support
talking
this.
about?
We'll take
Well, they need to make sure that the counselors are as bad with
resources
firearms as the police are,
needed.
and then once they
So
get
in every
them on the
call we
same
don't
page
get a
that
police
way,
officer,
then
we have a mental health.
we'll
worker.
have just the
My place
counselors
is
going
great.
out.
It's very successful in other parts of the country. I will be very successful here because people like you in this room will make it successful. Thank you.
The drone isn't a social worker itself, but the drone does have access to a
Thank you,
telehealth
and I
program where
certainly
a
agree.
counselor from BetterHelp will be available to anyone in an
Supporting our
encampment.
schools with mental health counselors in lieu of school resource officers, and making sure that in our community that we're responding to a mental health crisis with somebody that's equipped to respond with care to that crisis rather than with a punitive, oftentimes dangerous response. And so I certainly appreciate this effort. I thank the mental health task force here in the city that put this together. Community Health Link that stepped up to hire these mental health counselors and implement this program. And I also want to talk about, this is why the care economy workforce is so important to me, and why we have to be deliberate and intentional in investing in this pipeline and in developing these employees and these counselors. It's not enough to say we're just going to hire a set number of mental health counselors. There is a challenge right now as a provider in being able to identify and hire staff. And so we have to be deliberate and innovative in creating pipelines, making sure that the pipelines of counselors that we're training and we're hiring are
All right. Neither of them are really answering this question.
broad cultures and languages that we have here in our community, so that individuals experiencing a mental health crisis can actually have somebody who
I mean, Robyn's answering it better, but
understands their culture, understands their languages, that can be able to interact with them. So to me, it goes beyond the saying we want to hire these.
Bill, did you ever get the report that was done about Worcester's experiment with non-armed police back in the 60s and 70s?
no, but it's been on my list to do for forever.
I have a copy, so I'll get that for you. It actually is
Oh,
a really good
awesome.
read, because we were one of the only places in the country that took advantage of it after
Well, I think it's
the Johnson
about
administration made funding for it available, and
Hmm.
we were given a lot of credit for it nationally by academics for the work we had put into it until the unions fucked it all up.
about making space available and giving space to others. You know, for me, I think it's practicing and walking the walk and practicing what we preach on that. I'm incredibly proud that the campaign team I put together is incredibly diverse. I have 2 women of color that are running my campaign. I have a member of the LGBTQIA community that's part of my campaign. And it's about being deliberate and intentional about bringing people and giving space to people that particularly don't always have access to these spaces. That's something that I intend to continue that effort as I go into the State House, and making sure that we're intentional and we're deliberate, because we know this doesn't happen by accident. We know that space isn't given up by accident, that we have to be intentional to have representation.
Well, I do all my hiring by nepotism, so
This is an important issue. As a state senator, I'd be very supportive of that, to give people an opportunity. You only succeed, like I say, as a city, but as a state, when everybody has an opportunity to succeed. Now, in the city of Worcester, when we did hiring, which was a little bit of controversial, we made it a rule that everyone is equal to take the person of color in the job. I think that's an important issue. You see, City Hall still has a long ways to go.
What?
It's really diversified now in the city.
What is he talking about?
And I surround myself with people, all, whether it be the LGBTQ community, whether it be people of color, and have access to me. And as a state senator, this is an important issue.
Wow.
I think he was saying if everyone is equal, like as a candidate for a job, then they pick the person of
Question
color.
number 9. All right. Joe first, Robyn after.
Which is
Do you
certainly a
think
sentence.
Massachusetts should adopt same-day voting?
He didn't know what he was
Yes,
talking about.
no, and why?
Like,
We've come a long way with voter registration and voting, with the early voting and the mail-in voting. It's so important that we give access to people to vote. I do support the same-day registration. We should be able to do that as a community.
we take the chief diversity officer, because we make them useless.
And it should be very successful this year. And I would support that as a state senator, that we increase voting access here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We don't take voting rights away from people. And it's been very successful here in the city over the last few elections when it comes to mail-in voting and also same-day voting.
I too support moving towards same-day registration. And back when I worked for State Senator Ed Augustus back in 2005, he was chair of the Elections Committee at the State House.
Oh, I forgot you worked for Ed Augustus. Never mind, I can't vote for her.
To pass, and unfortunately it didn't, and we're still not there yet. So the time has certainly come. Voting should be easy and accessible for every eligible voter in our community. You know, we have a lot of changes happening right now with the redistricting.
Imagine if Joe Petty tried to paint her as the machine candidate.
We need to make sure that as a city, as a community, we're communicating.
See, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people talking about him are saying that.
today.
That's so
We
crazy.
communicating so that it's not just about saying that it's there, but we're deliberate in making sure that people that particularly may not
That would
already
be nice.
Yeah.
have access to that
Doug, did
information.
you hear Gary Rosen ask about sanctioned outdoor encampments last night?
Anybody has
That was
access to
crazy.
vote. So certainly, same-day voter registration is a big part of that. Thank you.
Gary Rosen, recently anointed anarchist.
So if you want me to repeat, I will. The climate goals of both Worcester and the Commonwealth require that the economy moves off fossil fuels by 2050.
Here we go.
This will require new, improved, and
Let's do it again.
green energy industries.
Well, they must have been at last night's forum and just realized how completely absurd his answer was. I just wanted to hear it again. Just
And these
For jokes,
industries for
for
Black,
laughs.
brown, indigenous, low-income Worcester and Central.
Doug, I'll
Coast.
be writing that
Which
part up
support
pretty
focusing
detailed in my
technologies which you
post
use
this
to
week.
support
So
the development of
I'm gonna have to do
pipelines
that.
and on-ramps now for those who most need jobs.
No, absolutely. And this is where equity is part of a systemic response and not part of an afterthought. We absolutely need to be focusing on environmental justice communities, not only when we're talking about environmental policies and how we're implementing some of those policies, but we also need to be deliberate and intentional and mindful as we're creating pathways and programs, particularly to these new economies and these new workforces. Part of it, and I say this so
It was a
often,
very vaguely worded question.
admitting that I don't have all the answers to what we need to do. I know our community does. And when we turn to our community, we look to our community and say, how can
Doug, sign up to pay $420 a year.
we're going to build the right solution.
You can do that.
Get there. And so for me, it's about understanding what are the barriers. It's working with immigrant communities, understanding what are the challenges with their immigration status that might be preventing them from accessing certain workforces. It's about making sure that access to this education and this information has language accessibilities. There's a multitude of strategies that we have to be looking to the community at the onset of implementing these strategies so that we are building these pipelines, building these pathways that are deliberately inclusive of everybody and not, as we typically tend to do, an afterthought that we're trying to figure out after the fact of how we are addressing it. I think we need to lean in more deliberately on our environmental as a city in terms of our environmental response, and would certainly continue to do so in this way.
Excited about the future, I think, when it comes to.
That's going to be the Joe Petty news release.
I'm very supportive of the climate issues, and also we have in the city of Worcester was able to put
Oh my
a
God.
green program by the same dates by 2050, trying to address the fossil fuels and other energy issues. We have a pretty good track record right now here in the city. We have new buildings, whether it be Doherty, which is going to be we're going to put heating pumps in there, so we'll actually be selling energy back. We've on Nelson Place South High School, which is going to be energy neutral. And what's important too, and especially addressing disparities in the city, we have a tree canopy that we put through the whole city of Worcester, as much as the outside.
Come on. You put a tree canopy in the city?
By administration.
No, he's just a big fan of John Lowry and remembers that line that Worcester has a dome built over it and God isn't allowed inside.
I helped the trees grow on account of being old.
Trades here right now with the city of Worcester and the taxpayer money. We put several $100,000 away. We started that program a few years ago. We actually
Oh my God.
to make sure all our youth and all our people of color get the opportunity for these jobs in the future. These are going to be the future jobs.
Mayor Lorax,
Number
he
of great
speaks
jobs
for the trees.
in the state of Massachusetts.
Question number 11, Joe, then Robyn. All right.
Show
Many
me a
in
tree.
the community believe that MCAS testing allows white supremacy to flourish in public schools.
All of those,
Public
actually.
school districts in predominantly Black and brown
No,
communities
I got
Worcester
rejected for
have
that.
been using standardized testing as a tool not to improve opportunities for students, but instead as one to pry public education away
No
from.
spoilers yet, but I might have a
Are
very
you in
positive
favor of
interaction with the city to
abolishing the
announce.
MCAS testing Why or why not? And if
Tune in
yes, what
next
steps
time.
would you take to
Next
make
time.
it?
That's called burying the lead, baby.
I was pretty much disappointed when the DESE came out with the new requirements for upping the scores for students and able to graduate. I think it begins with the class of 2024. There's a lot of pressure on students right now, a lot of pressure on teachers, principals, and they teach to the test. You know, I've grown on this issue, and there needs to be accountability. But this has a negative impact on my students here in the city of Worcester. Especially in the communities of
Does
color,
there?
no question about that. Not just in Worcester, but every urban city in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and students in Massachusetts. So I'll be looking at, as a state senator, I'd like to review this, come up with a new program. I think accountability, you need accountability, but at what cost?
Accountability for fucking what?
Frustrated that they don't want to go ahead in their education. and
Just
probably
fund
drop out of school for a
fund
week.
schools correctly and get rid of the
I would
MCAS.
definitely be supportive of the
Yeah.
state senator to address that issue with MCAS and make sure it's fair to everyone here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and also give them the ability to move on in their lives in education and get a good job. It's so important that we work cooperatively together. It gives a change to the teachers too, so the teachers can teach instead of teaching to a test.
Man, you could not write a fictional version of the way Joe Petty
I
speaks.
do believe that is an outdated system. We've heard systematically the problematic nature of the test and the way that in particular it's prohibitive to communities of color, to English language learners, and that's problematic. And when we hear that, we need to listen to that and we need to address it proactively. So I certainly do believe that this is an example where we need to rebuild a system from scratch. There are
We got to
ways
get Noam Chomsky on this one.
understand
We
where
ran
communities,
every
where schools
Joe Petty
are at,
sentence through an AI
a
generator and it
benchmark
killed
so that
itself.
we know where schools do need more investment.
Updating George Orwell's Politics in the English Language for Joe
Additional
Petty
paraprofessionals,
specifically.
maybe like additional mental health
Oh, that'd be a
services,
fun Worcester Sex Post.
like
Just take
communities
that
where
essay
it's
and just
funding
like
and
make
underfunded
it
for so
specific to
long,
Joe.
and they're not paying their teachers where we
See,
need
there we
more
go.
of an investment.
She's
So
talking
we
about it.
absolutely need accountability, and we certainly need measures to be able
We don't.
to
I don't.
understand where
We don't
students
need
in our schools
an
are
official
at
form
and
of
where we can
accountability. I don't
provide more
think. I think
supports to that school.
we just need to make
However, I do not support using MCAS as a prohibitive tool to
teachers'
prevent kids
wages
in our
livable
communities from being
and
able
schools
to
fully
graduate
funded,
or
and
achieve new
this
Yeah.
should all
levels.
work
And
out.
as such, I certainly do not support
Yeah. What if we just
SE
have a
or
society
test week to be able to rise to
without having to prove it
requirements around
that we deserve it?
MCAS testing? I certainly will work with my colleagues in the legislature as well as school boards across the district to understand it and to address this.
Thank you. Question number 12. This is another lengthy one. And if you want me to repeat it, I will.
Oh, she's so
Most
fucking
candidates
slamming
have
his
limited
ass.
resources, time, volunteers, money, so they focus on mailings, door knocking, and phone banking on people who are dependable voters. A WBUR 2021 story cited data from the Kaiser Family Foundation noted that historically, Black and Latino residents vote at a far lower rate than white voters in Massachusetts. While 71% of white voters turned out in 2020, the figure was only 51% for Hispanic voters and just 36% for Black voters. The lowest Black turnout percentage in the country. This means that many of
I
our
know
elected
that.
officials are not elected by the diverse community they will represent. How are you reaching out to people in low turnout parts of the first Worcester district? And what would you do as a state senator to make sure that you represent all of your constituents and not just the constituents who vote? And how can we hold you accountable on this?
Yeah.
So first and foremost, those facts, those figures, that information anecdotally is real. You know, I'm a first-time candidate, so first time at it from the candidate's perspective, but have been working on political campaigns for a very long time here in the city. And it's no secret that the votes in this community come from certain wards, certain precincts, and that oftentimes candidates and elected officials also come from those wards and precincts and spend most of their time in there. And so we see that in the map of our new school committee district lines of where the concentrate. So we absolutely have to address it. For me, when I
I
started,
really do think that we should be bringing back sortition. That is the
collecting
solution to like
licensing
all
occurs
of our
in Berlin
problems.
and Bolton, which are the new towns
90% of our problems.
and the smallest
What's
communities.
What the heck
sortition?
is that?
I
Well, you
started
just pick
out
people randomly to serve.
Oh yeah,
Mary Keith.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
yeah.
The first doors I hit in the city of Worcester were in her district, which accounts for many of the communities of color that we're talking
We'll end up
about
with like Justin McGrath from
here in
Ralph's.
the city.
This is like our mayor.
It's
That'd
about
be awesome.
deliberate, intentional, response consistently. That was for me about being intentional of how I was going to start my campaign and how to continue. I've been on forums with What's Up Worcester in the Village twice so far, and going back. That to me is important, that we're willing to sit in space, we're willing to be asked questions by our community while we're campaigning, and that's something that I'm trying to demonstrate as a candidate, and that's how it will be accountable.
This has been a challenge, I think, for a number of years. There's no question about that. It's about being
I have
accessible.
directly benefited my entire life
I'm in the
from
community all the
this
time.
dynamic,
I don't care what
and
part of the
I have no
community it is.
plans of changing it.
I'm there all the time. I would go in, I try to represent people. I show up, and you talk about accountability. I'd be accountable to make sure I meet with all the community leaders as a state senator on a regular basis, whether it be in the towns, whether it be in every part of Worcester, even parts of Worcester I don't represent. Because if people, I really believe this from the bottom of my heart.
You stay the hell out of
don't
West
really
Attic
give
from
a
here
crap
on
about
out.
what's going
This
on here
is
in
the Gobi
Worcester.
Desert.
They can't succeed. The city of Worcester can't succeed. And I have my commitment to make sure, like I do as the mayor right now, I represent every part of this community. I've done it for 6 terms as mayor, and prior to that as the city council. And I can promise you right now, as a state senator, I will be accessible. I will be in every district here in the city of Worcester and every town that I represent in the first Worcester district. Thank you.
All right. On to lucky number 13. It's not a lengthy one. Yeah, it's an easy one.
Joe is really confused by the number
Right.
of microphones on hand here now. He's just always trying to hand them off and then gets another one.
Marriage.
Well, the answer to that is yes. We talk about that is, it was really started right here in Massachusetts, not the first state, but one of the first states to do same-sex marriage.
All right, this question. Imagine. No,
We do that fight every day because we know what's happening.
no, fuck you.
Right?
You had your shot. You blew it.
The LGBTQ and the Supreme Court, they're going after those 2 things next. There's no question about it. We have to keep our guard up and do the fight.
See me, I really missed it when I was cruising in Elm Park. There's not enough of that anymore.
LGBTQ community that protect our voting rights, because you know what's going to happen. They're going to appeal someday one of our laws to the Supreme Court. We may have to make sure that we do the fight nationally to get people elected to represent what we believe in, people, that people should be able to live not in fear, that people should be able to be part of the community and prosper. So yes, I'm part of the LGBTQ community. Yes.
What? No, you're not.
I think you really misinterpreted what that fundraiser he had in the mailbox last week meant. But, it wasn't
Holy
that.
shit.
No, it wasn't that.
I'm gay. Everyone's gay. We're all gay. I was on Tumblr in 2014.
And I worked in Governor Patrick's office when legislators in our community, in our
That was
state,
wild.
were trying to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot so that we could vote on returning it as a vote to make it marriage legally defined as between one man and one woman. So the diligence.
Joe Petty just stole gay ballot.
Absolutely true that the Supreme Court has already foreshadowed that.
I'm so.
Next.
That was awesome. Oh my God. Come on, dude.
We got clips going, right? This is.
Oh, I wrote that. That was at 6:59.
Okay.
We'll definitely have to go back and find that one.
That we are deliberate in ensuring.
Oh, Mo, that's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one.
That they are affirmed, that they are valued here in the Commonwealth. That begins with comprehensive sex education for our students. And that continues to making sure that everybody has the right to marry who they love. So certainly that's
Lesbians, boobas, bacon tomato.
The fuck is happening?
Number 14.
I started watching RuPaul's Drag Race with my wife.
That
And-
Good
Alaska,
show.
that Alaska
And how do you
Thunderfuck is
plan
so
to-
talented.
plan to do climate change and lessening the Worcester carbon.
Listen,
footprint?
Hunty.
Worcester's carbon footprint.
You know, one of the things, and we talked about this a little bit.
Hunty.
last
Oh
night,
my God, dude.
I 110% support the city of Worcester getting into the 10-city pilot program to be able to.
Nice. Good job by Robyn bringing this up.
Yeah.
To have electrifying our buildings and new development. Climate change is on our doorstep. We are past the point of wait and see.
Do you guys think they'll
We need to be
ask my
part
question
of
that I
proactive leadership
asked in the
to be
Facebook
able to
comments?
address these issues.
What was
What
your
you
question?
saying?
Would you
We
rather
need to
fight
ask the
10
right
duck-sized
questions.
Candy Merrill Carlsons or
Whether
one
we have
Candy Merrill
a
Carlson
council
sized
here in the
duck?
city with the implementation, ask the right questions, understand the impacts.
Oh, that's a great one.
Pilot is prudent on behalf of the city because being part of the pilot lets us be part of making local ordinance and having local control. We're all going to be required
This
to do
is-
this by 2050.
This is a good
part of the
answer
you referenced earlier.
based on
It behooves
the
us
debates
as a
being
community
like on consecutive
and as a
days
leader in the
to
state
hammer
be
this
part
a little
of
more.
this. So I certainly support efforts like that and other efforts for us to be proactive.
Yeah.
You know,
This one,
mentioning-
gotta say, a lot less spicy than the other one. And the other one was not that spicy.
Where we replaced all the trees in the Burncoat area and other parts of the city that were ravished by the Asian longhorn beetle. But in that part of that.
You want to get new voters from communities that don't historically vote? Try being a little less fucking boring. Make it like wrestle.
Communities.
Come out as gay.
I think we really need to commit to running a candidate for the next local cycle that is just in for the political theater, just theater, nothing else. Like, even if they win, they walk away, but they're there all the way through just for the entertainment.
Gary Antifa Rosen.
And the city of Worcester,
We're bringing him in.
Plan. We have a schedule by certain dates to meet.
Dress him in black.
And also support that. I would like to support the issue regarding the fossil fuel that Mayor Wu has joined on. But
Joe, why would you bring this up? You don't have to. God, political genius.
Not really good defined when it comes to this issue. And what's the cost when we're talking about housing? What's the impact on housing? What's the impact on buying a car, especially at this time? People can barely afford with the inflation rates, can't afford their rents.
Yes.
What's the impact on those people? Would the federal government or the state government reimburse us?
Oh, it was awful. It was so bad.
Fine, I'm in 100%.
The ballot box they had was cool, but
Economic Development Committee quickly do a study on this.
What the hell is he talking about?
Recommendation to us as a city of Worcester.
He forgot what the question was.
Okay.
He got so cucked by Robyn there. It was just a question about lessening the carbon footprint of the city. And he decided that he had to have a hedging answer about the fossil fuel pilot initiative instead of just talking about something else.
Extensively.
Because I'm going to eat less beans and ride a bike to work once a week. That would have been fine. You know?
Pretty much everybody, but I think
What was
to
the
be in
question?
this business,
Sorry.
whether if you're Republican or Democrat, it's hard work. If you're serious at it, if you want to do the right things, and I really become the Ed Markey, Elizabeth Warren for the advocacy.
Imagine Joe Petty was like,
in Massachusetts.
I think that I would instruct my police department to ignore acts of sabotage against fossil fuel infrastructure.
Work hard for the most vulnerable people in the country, in the world. And now I'll just cap it off with not only those two, but my favorite one is Jim McGovern. Jim McGovern is one of my...
Oh my God.
Jim McGovern is someone I sort of grew up with in politics. He was a few years before I got started in politics, got to know each other. There's a man who cares about every person in the United States and the world when it comes to hunger, when it comes to education, when it comes to sticking up for people and making sure everyone gets the opportunity to succeed here in this nation.
He's the best at sitting on a $600,000 political fundraising war chest.
Good retirement, have their kids get a good education.
the
have an
McGovern
opportunity,
crime
and
family.
also be fair to everyone. He doesn't pick and choose, Jim McGovern. He represents everyone in his district, and everyone in the United States, and everyone in the world, really. And so Jim would probably be my favorite.
Hey, I just finished How to Blow Up a Pipeline, really good.
And you know, looking across
So it's on the brain.
levels of government here, I'll start locally. certainly on our city
I
council.
guess my
I
favorite
admire incredibly
politician
our new
would be
councilors, Councilor
Abraham
Tapatia,
Lincoln.
Councilor Tunuen, who have in their first months on the council
Oh, cool.
major
Hell
change
yeah.
for our community. They are
Great.
asking the tough questions. They're making sure that the residents know what's happening in our community, even when it's controversial topics. And they're willing to start these conversations. They're leading our city to have conversations like inclusionary zoning and looking at addressing the problem pregnancy centers that have tormented and harassed women in our community for years now. Those are the types of leaders we need that are going to be on the forefront, and I certainly admire their efforts. At the state level, I certainly have long been had partnership with Representative Mary Keefe. I look forward to getting to the legislature and working with her on issues of criminal justice reform, on the environmental issues that she's been a leader on that we're talking about today, and where I acknowledge I have space to grow and to learn more about. And I look forward to working with and learning from her. And certainly at the federal level, it goes without saying.
Mary Keefe really is such a sweetheart.
Certainly the type of proactive leader that we need now more than ever, who is understanding how to roll up your sleeves, how to get things done. And
Politicians love rolling up their sleeves, dude.
Responses to challenges and to
Absolutely love it.
That we're doing so deliberately.
Well, if you do it right, Bill, it makes your forearms look bigger than they actually are.
That's true.
So you can kind of fit in with people who actually work.
Right.
Feeling like you got skinny little stick arms.
Getting to 7:10, and we do want to take some time.
One time, I won't out the person that said this, but a city hall person was making fun of Jake Sanders, and he just goes, "I love Jake. Softest hands. He's got the softest hands." And I was like, dude, that's such a funny way to make fun of a dude. I love it.
Well, thank you, everybody, for submitting some questions. And there were a few topics not covered. And I think I start with Robyn and then Joe.
Counselor's Five Ducks was not covered.
The question is, do you support supervised
did.
injections?
Hey!
Also, if so, what do you think would need to happen for it to pass successfully across the state as a senator?
Oh, good question. I like this question.
Yeah.
Sure, and I certainly
That's
appreciate
right.
and understand
did
the
this.
complexity of this issue and the controversial nature of such an issue. I will say this, what we do know is the status quo is not working. We need to look at innovative responses to address the challenges that our community is facing and the new and emerging and increasing challenges that we're facing around substance misuse. I do support exploring creating safe injection sites. There needs to be a whole lot of deliberate, intentional conversation. I appreciate the newness of this, and as I mentioned, the controversial nature of it, that we need to have many deliberate community conversations. We have to engage the Mass Nurses Association. We have to engage social workers.
Hedging more than I would like, but
members understand the impacts of this. And we have to look at cities like Boston.
As the resident, old person, I don't find this controversial at all.
And we have to learn and listen to what is
yeah.
working well.
I think that as soon as someone says it's controversial, you know they're a no. You know? Like
new solutions, and that's something that I think as a state that I know.
You know what's not controversial? Portugal doesn't have a heroin problem anymore.
Yeah.
Not controversial.
But if we can't have drug problems in the United States, what's the CIA going to do?
What will we fight wars against?
Serious issue, there's no question. When it comes to addiction,
how will we achieve the boomerang effect of empire?
This is where the state has to take control and come up with solutions on how to attack these issues. I think Governor Newsom, I thought today came out and pretty much vetoed his injection sites because he didn't think it would. I'm good. Okay. Then because I think there were 4 cities that were scheduled to do so, but he has concerns with that. So this is something that would have to be studied greatly, and the impact on the community and how it's going to be addressed. But I don't mind having this discussion and how to move it forward on a statewide basis. It shouldn't be up to as a mayor of a city to make that decision by themselves. I think it's a little bit unfair for the cities unless they have a real control of the issue and understand the benefit of it. And something has to be done. There's no question about it. Whether it be
a masterclass in how to just say no in the most tepid way possible.
And also the addiction services.
But what would my actual constituents think?
Mr. Petty, then Ms. Kennedy. Please describe your strategy as a state senator to meaningfully engage younger people, 18 to 40, in the democratic process in communities.
Robyn's answer was like
I think
15% better than Joe's.
community and being accessible will
I
make a
can't believe they
difference.
didn't ask the
Also
duck
in
question.
education, I think education, the schools have gotten away from educating people how important it is in their civic duties, and we're starting to get back to that. I think that
Yeah, we have a
18 to 20
supervised injection site. It's
they
called
are
the
engaged.
library.
My kids, I have 3 children. They're engaged. They tell me what I do wrong every day.
By doing nothing, we have made it this way.
So I listen to them, and I think this is something needs to be done. There's no question about that. You see the voting stats we talked about earlier. They're not going in the right direction.
Who could possibly do anything
Every
about
year, you
any of
struggle
these
to get
issues, though?
20% turnout,
I
50%
love the
turnout.
library.
And tell you the truth, the future is going to
Fucking A.
be our children. It's the people that are under 40 years old. And
Oh my God, Joe.
Really, that's how the future works.
I think becoming engaged and understanding how government
Look at Benjamin
works,
Button over here telling us how the future
they
works.
depend on government.
I believe
them to be there.
the
Whether it
children
be
are the future.
Public safety issues, whether it be school issues.
Something needs to be done, and when someone else thinks of what to do,
The
I
most
will
important
totally support it if everyone else.
I'll listen to them talk about it.
And also get a response back.
I'm with you fellas. I'm with you fellas.
So I think for me, it's so important, and I said this before for other answers, but it's so true across the board. It's about being consistently deliberate and intentional, and being willing to be led by young people in our community, about being willing to authentically listen to what the barriers are and how we can eliminate those barriers and how we can make space. We talk a lot about wanting to bring up the next generation of leaders. We need to be deliberate in making sure we're making space for the next generation of leaders. That is something that I'm going to be wholeheartedly committed to make sure that the generation of leaders that is coming up behind us has access to that and has the support from me and from our community. You know, I think I want to give a huge shout out to our workers at the Starbucks on East Central Street.
All right, that's
Huge
good.
shout out.
I thought it was
These
going to be
are
to
our
us.
young community who are stepping up leadership roles in our unions. They are our next
The
generation.
indispensable labor of the Worcester Councilor Theater 3000 Twitch stream.
To support them as they call for and need our support.
But, you
So
know,
for me,
I
it's
obviously
about,
agree
again,
with
like,
what Robyn is saying, but at the same time, it kind of misses the point entirely, right? Like, because you're describing people who are already engaged and part of the system. Like, if you actually want to engage the general population of 18 to 40-year-olds, then be at least as entertaining or interesting as cocaine, right? Like,
Yeah.
those people
All right,
aren't part of the
we'll now
system
move on to
because they
closing
have better things to
statements.
do right now.
You have 3 minutes for
What
your
do I
closing
think about
statement.
railroad
For
unions?
closing
Well, I
statements
think they should
that are
exist
established
and
earlier,
protect the workers and make
Robyn
sure they get paid
and
Oh,
well.
bye, Walter.
I don't,
Bird.
I
Yes,
don't,
I just want to
yeah.
thank everybody for
A
coming
warning,
out tonight.
Walter.
Reverend, thank you for putting this together. Kim, thank you for putting this together. Our moderators, and our organizations, the Jane Fund, the League of Women Voters, Pathways, NAACP, Abby's House, and everybody who participated. Because this makes a difference. You get out and listen to people. So thank you for your time.
I don't really, can we get a fact check on this?
You know, we've
Did
seen a lot
did
of
this make a
progress here in the
difference?
city of Worcester over the last 11 years since I've been mayor. I want to take what I've learned as mayor.
Did
here in the
Walter
city of Worcester,
spot an intern?
Senate. I've been result driven.
No, I get that, Kara, but I think the point is that Robyn has also been a part of the system by choice and actively engaged young person throughout her career. And like, I had the luxury of growing up in a family that was really politically active and motivating and whatnot. Like, I have the luxury to take that for granted. The majority of young people, no fucking idea what's going on in politics or government because they have more interesting things going on in their lives.
Investment
Right.
in economic development. When I called Larry,
And if you're a young
And-
person that's too involved in politics, then, you know, you
and it's
could
really
Jack,
driven
and
a lot of our
that's
success.
terrible.
in the city and
He's a
through the economic
psycho.
development opportunities. Investment in our schools and our youth programs. Investment in our Worcester Public Library. And also investment in our senior center.
Gary
Here in the city of
Rosen,
Worcester.
standing ovation.
And this investment in the people, because like I said before, if I'm only successful, only a certain part of the population is not successful, we will not succeed. This is why I did the Latinos, the mayor's.
And also,
commission
like, especially at the local level,
Because we lose the Latinos.
you have to
growing
really
population,
fucking
and the majority
try
incorporated
to
in the
find a
city,
reason to care
we're gonna
about
lose
this
the
shit.
city.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no.
So
We
they
talk
have to
about.
be
We were talking about
successful.
upside
It means
earlier.
all I have to be
There's not a lot of
I'm
upside
gonna work
if you're a
to make
young
sure that's
person
done as
getting
a
involved in
state senator,
politics. There's
that everybody has
on
access
a
Yeah.
local
to be
level, especially.
successful in this community.
Because just who is really seeing
And
City
as
Hall
a
do
state
anything for
senator,
them
I will also make sure to be
besides give them a
people's
parking
first
ticket or
agenda
make
when
them
it
pay
comes
an
to the
excise
budget.
bill? You know?
That will deal with climate
And
change,
I think,
early
Kara,
education,
this is a
right
very good
through
point.
higher ed, food
This is an
insecurity.
extremely good point.
and
It is,
health,
but the question
for
was
the
about
housing
18 to
issues,
40-year-olds. I think there's
making
plenty of
college
reasons why
affordable,
40-plus-year-olds
and
are
also
also
serving our
completely
seniors here in
pulled
the
out of the
city of
system as
Worcester,
well, but
making
they're
sure our
different reasons
seniors that
than
they
why
can
younger
live when it
folks
comes to
tend to be.
housing.
Yeah,
So,
and the ones that
one of
are
my goals
involved,
as a
a
state
lot of them
senator
are
will be a
involved
housing
because they
strategy
know enough
to make
people
sure
that
everybody
are
has quality
in the
housing,
system
and accessible
to get
housing, and
results.
affordable
Right.
housing. Again, I just want to thank everyone for
Yes.
coming out
Oh,
tonight.
yes.
I want to
Yeah.
ask you for your vote on September 6th. And please don't forget to vote on September 6th. It's the
Yeah,
day
as
after
being
Labor
on
Day.
the over
Thank
40
you.
side of things now, like the majority of my friends don't give a shit about anything that's happening right now, but
you
that's
so
because they're
much,
too
and
busy
again,
worrying about how they're going to pay for college for their kids or, whatever,
Space here
refinance their
tonight,
mortgage. Like,
to the
they've got
organizers
other
for
shit
putting
too.
this on, pulling this
They got to
together,
fight
for your very
10
thoughtful questions,
duck-sized Candy
for
Merle
your many
Carlsons.
very
They're
thoughtful
literally
questions.
floating down the street because of this
Yes.
rain.
And thank you to the moderators and to the timekeepers. These are the most difficult jobs in the forum, so I appreciate your
Oh,
time.
I haven't really been following that,
We enjoy this
honestly.
conversation.
I think
This
everybody
is
that works for or
democracy
worked
in
for the
action, and we
railroad
need
is a
more
villain.
types of
So
conversations in our democratic process. So thank you, and thank you to everyone that's here tonight. Thank you for everyone that's listening online, for giving up some of your time to be part of this. This is an incredibly
Answer the duck
important-
question.
This is an incredibly important race, and as we look to our future,
Kara,
we look
you
to
have
the
an in.
challenges
Text
we
Robin
face
the
and
duck
the
question and get her
opportunities
to
ahead of us.
throw
On the
an
It's
record.
important that we are, as the
Have her
candidates,
tweet
are
it.
speaking directly to you about what it is we want to focus on and what it is we want to prioritize.
You can.
As I
you
mentioned earlier,
you
my
cannot or
number
you
one
will not.
priority is investing in our care economy, from our early education and care teachers to our paraprofessionals, mental health counselors in our schools, all the way up to home health aides and CNAs, just workforces who have been undervalued and paid for too long. And as a result, we saw these workforces just decimated during the pandemic. At the YWCA, I've managed through constant turnover in these roles because we're not paying our employees a livable wage. Our entire economy struggles when this turnover leads to closed classrooms and long wait lists. If we are deliberate and intentional, and if we understand how to work with state agencies and our stakeholders and our community, we can find the solutions that already exist. While so many challenges span across our city and towns, we need leaders who can understand and address the nuanced nature of these challenges in each of our communities. From my 13 years working in the State House and 5 years working in our community, I'm convinced that the right leaders with the right energy and the right
Yeah, Kara, you're
experience
basically worse than the Koch brothers.
and look to the future for new opportunities.
That's what Joe Petty
I'm
said.
also convinced that when we turn to our community and uplift the work that you are already doing here, we can find better and stronger solutions that serve everyone in our community. I appreciate your time here tonight. I appreciate you listening. And I humbly ask for you to consider voting for me on September 6th or tomorrow. You can vote by mail, or you can start voting in person this Saturday. So please, whatever
Nice.
it takes, get out to vote. And please consider voting for me. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
And fuck Joe Petty. That would be so funny. And Joe Petty sucked my whole dick.
What a wonderful response from the audience. At this time, I would like to close this forum
By
thanking
asking the
all of
duck question.
candidates, Robyn and Joe, for their participation in our democratic process. I would also like to thank the audience and those watching virtually for joining us tonight's forum. To the voters, please remember to vote on September the 6th. Please visit the tables to our sponsors.
Yeah, we just talked
the
over it.
located at the rear of the lounge.
I don't
And
know.
thank you. Drive safely, be safe.
The closing statement is just the opening statement.
In reverse.
Yeah.
All right,
It's
see if we
like,
catch
I'm the
anything
mayor.
weird.
I'm the mayor. Honestly, like some of the takeaways from the one yesterday, there really wasn't anything all that significant. Wait, what's all that background?
That's the mic is still open. I want to see if we hear anything crazy.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
We got 15 live mics, hot mics around
Yeah.
Joe right now. Something's going to be said.
Yeah, Robyn, you're a freaking moron. That's the best thing Turtle Boy ever did. was the Joe Petty hot mic thing. That is still awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah.
But
Credit where due.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't wait to hear that he's died, but that was good.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah. Fuck you, Aiden
Uh,
Kearney.
Yeah.
Fuck you and fuck John Manfredo for similar reasons.
I mean, actually, yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. They're gonna update. This is breaking news. They're going to all the unasked questions will be given to the candidates who will answer them. Pathway plans to provide their answers. Guys, we're going to
What,
get
like
an
in
answer
writing?
to the question. I don't know if anyone can read like
Wow, we're getting an answer to that question. Oh, that's awesome.
So
Is it going to be in writing?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I asked the
That's
question.
so sick.
Can everyone hop in on that Facebook stream and like Brian's
Yes.
question to ensure that it gets passed?
Yeah, that's very true. Dan Rassigot is going to be the one that answers that question.
Yeah. Yes.
That's awesome.
But she asked if she said my first question is in the queue. Do you wish your second question to be considered? And I backed off. I told her I was just being a little stinker, and she said that she was glad she asked, and which made me question: wait, would you have actually asked the question? So now I need to know the answer to this question. So that's all I'm going to be focused on between now and our next our next meeting. So if everybody can, yes, like that on Pathways for Change's Facebook, tweet at the candidates, asking them why they won't answer the question, and hopefully we can get some resolution on this because I think it's really important.
Looking back at my notes here, I think that there is something that's really worth taking a serious look at from this. Petty at 6:59 said, "I am a part of the LGBT community." Yeah, sure. That's big news if true. I think that's like who was the mayor? Was it the New York mayor that was like, I'm black, I'm Hispanic, I'm gay. It was Andrew Cuomo. When he did that. Yeah. That was Joe Petty was doing a little Cuomo bit. Yeah. That's
we gotta get a clip of that. You guys can scrub through and clip any portion of these broadcasts if you didn't know that.
yeah.
And share away. Just to make sure you tag us on Instagram at WCT3000 and Wootenanny Comedy, please. Yeah, that was a big one. Whoever first brought up in the comments about the injection sites, thank you for doing that. I'm glad they asked it. I didn't think that they would act like when I just was like, oh, throw it out on Facebook, and they asked it, and I think that was the most telling part of the whole debate.
Yeah, because it was an issue like these candidate forums, like just not to talk about either candidate, but just like the structure of these, is they're like boring on purpose. Like a lot of the questions are just like asking about like very baseline Democratic Party platforms, like do you support access to abortion? Like it would be like you're not going to get a great answer to that because it's just like, yeah, of course, duh. But when they ask questions that like aren't settled issues, that are sort of like stuff where there's not a party consensus, then you start to see where the candidates really kind of fall on the spectrum. And Robyn, I would say, was a little bit more supportive of the idea, but still felt uncomfortable fully committing to it. You know, it was definitely a hedged answer. And then Joe's was like unintelligibly hedged to the point where it was like a non-answer. He was just like that's he was like, that's a thing that I've heard before, and I'm scared. You know?
We should really find out about that. That's like when when you ask for a video game system for Christmas, and your parents are like, oh, we're gonna have to look into that.
And what he's basically saying there is like, if you're looking for leadership on that issue, it's not going to be me. I'm not. This isn't something I'm interested in at all.
If everyone else gets behind it, I'm totally willing to follow their lead.
Right. Yeah, he's the guy from "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
It's just super disappointing though, man. Because I mean, it's like a couple of people said in the comments, that issue in particular has been researched to death.
Mhm.
Everybody knows it works.
Mhm.
Everybody knows it does not create any more problems in comparison to the problems that it solves. And like to some of the stuff we were talking about earlier, Massachusetts is relatively small. So your overall impact is relatively small, and it has a massive impact socially on the nation when everyone else says, oh, well, I guess that isn't going to, whatever, ruin society. It's just a bummer. That's an easy one. And it's also easy to say yes to because the majority of the Senate wouldn't go along with it anyways.
Right. And that's another thing is like just the political, I don't know. I don't like capitulating to this like this center that you perceive to be there when like most people aren't even going to know how you answered on that question, let alone have that be a deciding factor.
Right.
Like why not? I don't know. Why not be enthusiastic about new ideas? I don't know. But yeah, Joe Petty just is not like a leader on policy.
You could have just put a period earlier, Bill.
He barely knows how to talk about it. And I think that like it's obvious that like Robyn at least like can fluently talk about the issues that she's going to be tasked with voting on. And Joe just like, I don't know, man. He's going through and transcribing exactly the way he answered a lot of those questions would be like almost difficult to read on paper. You know, it just it wouldn't make any sense.
It was difficult to read on screen.
I understand why we don't do debates on a local or regional level very often. They can be unwieldy and they get out of hand. Good moderators are hard to find. This is the kind of race that like demands a debate because you need two people that are going back and forth in a way that you can fully and easily understand that there is a difference in the way they are thinking and talking about a very simple idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and somebody said it earlier in the comments. It's a shame that these don't get watched.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, like, we're trying our hardest to make it like something that is like you can watch without falling asleep. But like, it's just that was like if I was watching that by myself and just taking notes, I'd be fucking miserable.
Yeah.
You know, that was just like that was no fun at all.
Yeah. Honestly, just from a strategy or like a branding standpoint, like the fact that they put these out on Zoom and Facebook Live, two things that you can't get on your TV is like
when we have cable access, you know.
Put it on cable access, put it on Twitch. Twitch is available on every single TV. You can every smart TV, which every TV is now, every streaming box you can get Twitch on. You can't do that. You can't watch, like, you have to watch this on your phone or sit at your computer and watch it, and most people aren't going to do that. So
okay, so people really started using Twitch in earnest about 2017, right? 2017, 2018.
I would say so, yeah.
So it's going to take Worcester till about 2027, 2028 to like kind of come around to the technology. So, and by that time,
we'll be announcing our delay to going carbon neutral in 2049 via Twitch. But that'll be the first time that we've used Twitch formally.
Yeah. The Millbury Street area will be a permanent pond, and why not do it at Polo Park? You know,
let's get something out of this goddamn deal, right?
Yeah. That's it. Again, I talked about this one of the first times we did a show together. That was, I mean, we hosted a debate for a mayor's race at the dive bar years ago.
Yeah.
It was fucking awesome. It was a room full of drunken assholes yelling at politicians, and it was
that's it.
It was chaos, and like that's the way it kind of. But it was also really informative because you got to see how people genuinely would act when they're uncomfortable in their own skin because they're in a very tight space full of drunken assholes.
Right.
There was value there.
Yeah.
We should trick people into doing that again.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We should probably have somebody else ask them, but besides us. But
Kara, would you trick people into coming down to a bar for us for a debate?
Please.
The Vernon Ship Room.
Yes.
Actually, that'd be
we'll
fantastic.
break them both on the wheel.
We can't get into Ralph's because Bill fucking burned that bridge.
Nah, I still got that bridge. They'll get over it. They'll get over it. But yeah, I don't know. There's got to be some way to, like, you're not going to get more people involved unless you make it more entertaining or give people more of a stake in it.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I think those are like, it's either entertainment, it's ease of access, or it's getting like,
I mean, the real thing is a stake. The real
results.
thing is like proving that government can fucking do something that benefits your life in any way. And like local government has a really hard time with that.
Mhm.
So that would be nice. Like
Yeah.
if they just divided the ARPA money by 188,000 or 200,000 or whatever and just cut everyone a check, like
Fuck it.
City Hall would get the most enthusiasm it has gotten in fucking decades, you know, because most people when they interact with City Hall, it's just to pay their excise bill or they got a fucking parking ticket and they don't know anything else about it, which is a shame. You know,
It's true. It's very true. Well, I mean, that seems like a pretty decent note to end on.
yeah,
This is all
on a
for
huge
nothing.
bummer. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I mean, I think the point of all this is to try and, you know, make this a little more palatable and, you know, make it easy for us to follow along with. And
My name's Joe Petty, and I am officially gay for state. If state Senate seats were men, I'd be gay. I'm a queer ally.
But the thing about something like this is, if we get, the more people get involved, the more we can like advocate for all of the things that, like, all of our issues. Like, I'm totally fine making this into like an explicitly political like space where we
right.
like, you know, try, like, I think that even most of the people that are in these comments, a lot of them don't know each other or didn't know each other before they started speaking in this comment section. And especially in Worcester, I think politics can be alienating and can feel like, if you care about it, you're the only one that cares about it. So
we got to do a live show and get drunk together.
We very much
everyone from the comments, let's do a live show. Let's get drunk after.
We're gonna do a con.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a convention.
But maybe this is a good closing thought. But like, I think that the best case for Robyn as a candidate for this race is that we really need to start thinking about city politics, local politics, more in the context of like movement politics. And Robyn is very much of a movement that we see on the city council of like a more markedly progressive voice and approach. I mean, it's with Christian too and Attell, like these are sort of on a very small scale figureheads of a movement to open city politics and local politics up to like an approach that could be more inclusive of people and not feel like stuffy like real estate guys that are just skimming money off the top and nothing happens. So
and people that are willing to push, like
right,
like are willing to kind of make people uncomfortable in like the, you know, on the power circles of, you know, the Democratic Party in the local, on the local level and on the state level, like people that are willing to, you know, not make everyone like happy behind the scenes all the time. That's big.
And that has typically been the provenance of like one right-wing crank like Mike Gaffney. You know, and it's nice to see like a sort of a movement of politics approach to making City Hall more progressive and more reflect the values of the actual community. And I consider Robyn to be a part of that. And so despite the Murray and Augustus connections that are worrying, it's still worth it that she would take office over Petty, who's not a friend.
Bill,
So
as a scummy real estate guy, Bill, I could not agree with you more. So
yeah. So hey, Matt, you're right. Live show in Bourbon after, that'd be a lot of fun.
And Kara will teach us all how to take over, like how the political machine works in this city, so we can take it over. I mean, honestly, sincerely, like that's what right-wing groups have done throughout this country over the last 15 years that have changed things so like drastically bad. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right,
we
right.
we just need to step into places that people aren't
Yeah.
looking.
Churches
for.
don't have rock bands for the olds.
True. Wow,
Yeah.
that's a really nice note.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's really
Thank
sweet.
you, Emmett too.
Uh,
But maybe we leave it there, and
yeah,
the next city council meeting isn't until September 20th, but that's going to be a good one.
yes,
Based
yeah.
on what I know so far. So
We plan on doing an election night for the primary.
I'll do an election night. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do an
I
election
think,
night.
yeah.
Just while we have
yeah.
the audience, just put it in people's brains that we'll probably be on that night to wrap
Yeah,
up the election call.
September. Yeah,
6.
September 6th.
Hell yeah. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed to billstrainer.substack.com. Bill, what's the URL for your Patreon? Do you know, or what is it under? Do you know?
It's patreon.com/WGBH.
Perfect. So either one of those, make sure that let's get Bill to a level where he can really start fucking shit up.
Yeah. Make me not a subsistence journalist.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we'll be back soon. Check out our stuff. Follow Wootenanny Comedy. Follow WCT 3000. Send Jess a message on there. She manages our accounts. But yeah, we will see you guys all soon. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. This was an exceptionally good comment section tonight. So
yeah, you guys
are amazing.
rule.
We love you guys.
Have a great night.
We'll see you soon.
We're gonna